most likely doomed. Interceptors at this point have weapons 2 upgrades and armor 1. No, weapons 1 and armor 1, I'm sorry, I believe. Although much is base at the inside at the 4 o'clock, I'm sorry, it has been completely annihilated. His Nexus is still there, but much of his probes have been taken out. I believe much also took the inside 5 o'clock, and I believe that's vulnerable as well if it's not been taken out. I believe earlier in the game when I said inside 5 o'clock, I meant 4 o'clock. Apologies about that. Much, critically though, has been able, he lost his Nexus at the inside 5 o'clock. Now I just confused myself. Okay, he lost his Nexus at the 4 o'clock, lost his Nexus inside 5 o'clock. Critically has still been able to keep his carrier number up fairly high. Is getting some of them shelled by those Goliaths, but really has to keep the rest of his bases up. Really needs to do some serious damage to Firebathero. I don't believe he's taken that base. I don't believe he didn't take out the inside 1 o'clock. Inside 11 o'clock, and all those Goliaths are moving downwards. They're going to be able to do a lot of damage to these carriers. Carriers are going to start engaging these Goliaths. I think the Goliaths are in far large number for Much to start engage. Much needs some ground forces to help him against all these Goliaths. There's so many Goliaths, some tanks alongside. Those carriers have to be used in a slightly different manner, I believe, for Much. Just flying them alongside. Try not to engage those Goliaths, because all those Goliaths are going to be able to kill all the Interceptor. Now, going to move up on the other side. Does have some Dragoons to help support his carriers. Not too many Goliaths. Goliaths just moving in just now. Trying to keep the tanks away. Trying to kill some of the tanks. But still taking some heavy damage. A lot of shots from those Goliaths. Now some Speed Seals finally on the ground. Still with only weapons 1. Dark Templar actually out in the field. So Much upgrading to some Dark Templar. Again moving towards the supplies now with those carriers. Just trying to find an opening. Just trying to take advantage of Firebathero not being at the places at all the places at the same time, because he has a large army that's not particularly maneuverable. Firebathero now actually moving with a heavy Goliath force apparently towards Much. His natural no, he's actually decided to move them back north, because Much is now attacking Firebathero's inside 11 o'clock. Is going to be able to clean it up. Zealots moving towards the 1 o'clock position. Just a few tanks that help defend. The Zealots are going to be able to clean up. Also, those Dark Templar, the inside 1 o'clock, I believe, went down. Now those carriers again going to move towards the main of Firebathero's. And now the 1 o'clock is going to be in jeopardy. Some Dark Templar there. Carriers just moving beautifully at all sides. Firebathero has moved some tanks towards the 7 o'clock, though. So Much as be careful trying to defend that. Does not much in the way of bases, just trying to take out everything Firebathero has. Now as some Dragoons move towards that floating command center, but has his own 7 o'clock base heavily threatened. Those probes not being pulled off, all being just heavily damaged. Dark Templar going to engage those Goliaths, start engaging all of those Goliaths. No scans going off, no science vessel in vicinity, but I think Firebathero managed to keep his command center alive. Heavily damaged, but still alive. The Templar are still killing a lot of these Goliaths. Goliaths being victims of some heavy Dark Templar harassment. Oh man, and Much finally sent a Dark Templar, I believe, to save his 7 o'clock, but he did lose a lot of probes at that location, and Firebathero is not going to be able to put down his base yet again at the 1 o'clock. Much, oh my god, so much happening at the same time. What I believe Much has the advantage here in that he has a much more maneuverable army. He has those carriers at 1 position. He has Zealots and Dark Templar at another position. Firebathero has a larger army, but much less maneuverable. And that's really a weakness for him at this point. Much at this point has two upgrades, I believe. He had 2 armor. I think he has 2 weapons as well. Can't quite tell. Now going to move towards the 3 o'clock position that Firebathero put down. Tried to put a base a little bit far out of the way, but Much has spotted that. Should be able to take it down because I'm not seeing any reinforcements coming in. Dark Templar there alongside Dragoons, just in case it decides to flow away. Now the carrier is going to start attacking the factories. They've killed so many supply depots at this point. Now going to start attacking the factories. And with no supply depots and no factories, Firebathero is going to be in a lot of trouble. Trying to float his command center all over the place. Goliath trying to come in to help support against these carriers, but Much doing a beautiful job. Now finally losing some of his Dark Templars due to turrets, and now going to finally move away with his carriers before he loses too many of them. But still has done beautiful damage, and Firebathero, I believe, is in quite a bit of trouble. He's just not been able to use his army just the way he wants to. Much has been allowed to use his Dark Templar any way he wishes, and Much just hasn't been allowed to maneuver. He's been trying to send some forces to do some damage. He's taken out 2 bases of Much's. I believe Much is now trying to establish his inside 5 o'clock. But Much beautifully has been able to just keep up a large maneuverable army. Now we're gonna have Archons down in the field. So yeah, Much, of course, I think he should have 2 forts at this point because he's been upgrading armor and weapons. He actually has weapons 1 for his ground forces, armor 2 for his aerial forces, as well as weapons 1 for his aerial forces, so he's been upgrading all over the place. Goliath's just desperately trying to engage. A huge Goliath number there, though. Not going to be able, all those interceptors are going to get killed just as they run out, and Firebathero managing to reestablish his 1 o'clock position with a very heavily damaged command center. Of course, the loss is 3 o'clock, so at this point both players are at 3 bases. All the mains are not mining. The natural expansions, especially Firebathero's, is quite dead, and now he's again getting his factories attacked, and this is horrible for him. He's just losing his production buildings. He's lost so much supply, now he's losing all of his production buildings. These carriers just have absolute free reign over Firebathero's main. Firebathero trying to move his forces back. It's just like he can't make a decision. Go for a counterattack or try to defend his main. As soon as he tries to defend his main, he's in a lot of trouble. Loses both of his armories now, so he won't even be able to keep up Goliath production at this point. And so many forces lost. So Goliath finally move in to try to stop these carriers, but the carriers move back to the safety over the ridge before any of them get killed. At this point, should be a control group of carriers, if not more. Much beautifully using these carriers. Now again can move Dragoons alongside some ground forces towards the north. He just, at this point, I think he should be able to finish off so many Goliaths on the ground. He has Archons now to help support him. With all of these Goliaths on the ground, not many tanks really much to speak of. Again, carriers for much going inside of Firebathero's base, doing a lot of damage there. And Firebathero at this point, I don't see really any way to come back in this. He's not being allowed. He's not going to be able to keep building factories. Just not being allowed to keep building factories. He's taking so much damage, not being able to keep any sort of troop production up. Lost so many supply depots. While despite the fact that Much has lost 2 mining bases throughout the game, he almost lost his 7 o'clock. It was heavily damaged anyway. But he's been able to keep his gateways up. He's not lost much in the way of pylons. He's not lost much in the way of gateways. Any armies that he lost were insignificant. His carriers, well, not insignificant, but you know what I mean, not as important. He hasn't lost really many carriers at all, if any. He's just managed to keep up completely. And Firebathero is just so economically behind now. He's lost, wow, 1 factory left inside of his main. Goliath's desperately trying to help defend, desperately trying to take out these carriers, but the carriers at this point in such a large number that they just own anything. Firebathero needs so many Goliaths to try to fight with this, and I just don't think he has enough. He's trying to engage this here, but I think Much at this point, flying a little bit away just as soon as he loses some interceptors. Firebathero would just be forced to attack the interceptors rather than the carriers themselves, because there are so many carriers. Firebathero, you can see the look on his face. He should have known at this point he's lost. He's built some factories at the 1 o'clock base. He's trying to reestablish his 3 o'clock. No SCVs at that location yet, though. Carriers still firing on, doing some damage, and Much just building up, a decent ground army to help support his carriers. I think he's going to move them in fairly soon, as soon as he feels, well, safe enough. If he doesn't feel safe enough yet, carriers are moving towards Firebathero's natural expansion, going to start attacking the command center. Command center is going to get taken out. So many carriers there, some taking damage, but just not being killed. You can see a heavily damaged carrier there at the front, with some shields up though. Now going to move towards the 1 o'clock base, most likely either go for the command center. Yeah, he is going to go for the command center. I'm not quite sure if there are enough SCVs. No, not enough SCVs to help her, but command center goes down. Armory there going to go down. And some SCVs trying to run back, but they're also going to get killed. Oh, Much. Beautiful game so far. Just outplayed Firebathero absolutely with his carriers. Now, finally, the ground army comes into play as well to start attacking the forces on the ground. Dragoons and Archons in a large number. Firebathero does not have anything. Just forced to engage those carriers on both sides. And now, a pincer from Much at the 1 o'clock base. Carriers on the right side. Dragoons and Archons the lower left alongside Zealots. Now GG coming in any moment from Firebathero. The rivalry continues and Much is still the victor. The Pylon Heart incident, I'm not sure if I actually talked about that, at the beginning of the match or not. I might have forgotten, but yeah, GG coming in for Firebathero. Of course, Much yet again beats Firebathero. Wow. Beautiful game overall. Now he's going to move on to the final match. I'm going to see whether he actually has what it takes to move out of this group. Much looks a bit hot. Well, I'm not going to say that playing against Firebathero is an easy game, but playing against a player that's very bad against protoss, not insanely hard to win, let's say it like that. I don't want to be insulting, but stats speak for themselves sometimes. So yeah, the Pylon incident stays the Pylon incident, and Much stays the better player. GG guys, ranching out. Thanks for listening. Look forward to the final match of Group H soon.